Dr. Amara Reed had spent 15 years listening to the whispers of the cosmos, but she never expected the universe to whisper back. The Deep Space Listening Array in New Mexico had always picked up the usual suspects: pulsars, quasars, and the occasional mysterious burst from distant galaxies. But on this particular Tuesday morning, as the first rays of sunlight painted the white radio dishes golden, something different cut through the cosmic static. "Director Harrison, you need to see this." Amara's voice trembled as she triple-checked the readings. The signal was unlike anything in their databases, a precise, repeating pattern that defied natural explanation. The facility director, a veteran astronomer with steel-gray hair and perpetually tired eyes, leaned over her shoulder. "What am I looking at, Dr. Reed?" "It's responding to us," Amara explained, her dark fingers flying across the holographic display. "Every time we send out our standard greeting packet, it sends back a modified version. It's not just reflecting, it's learning." The signal had begun as a faint anomaly in the background radiation of space, but within hours it had grown stronger, more focused, as if something ancient was waking up. Within 24 hours, similar reports flooded in from radio telescopes across the globe. The Chinese array picked it up, then the Russians, the Europeans, all receiving the same signal, all getting the same impossible responses. But it wasn't until Dr. Jasper Wong at the Mauna Kea Observatory made the breakthrough that changed everything. "It's not coming from out there," he announced during the emergency conference call. "The signal is coming from beneath the moon's surface." The revelation sent shockwaves through the scientific community. An artificial structure, buried beneath lunar regolith for unknown millennia, had suddenly stirred to life, and it had a message for humanity. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session as the lunar signal finally decoded itself into every major language on Earth simultaneously. The message appeared on screens worldwide, its implications staggering. "Attention enemies of CORECTIONAL facility TERA 7249. Routine system check INITIA. Status. Rehabilitation progress evaluation required. Stand by for MALASC estimate." Amara found herself quickly pulled from her comfortable lab into a whirlwind of high-level meetings. The world's governments, for once united by shared shock, scrambled to make sense of the situation. Humanity, it seemed, had been living in an open-air prison all along. The second message came 3 days later, this time accompanied by a holographic projection that appeared simultaneously in major cities worldwide. A being of shifting light and geometry introduced itself as Warden Interface Unit 459, explaining in eerily perfect English that Earth had served as a rehabilitation facility for the galaxy's most dangerous and creative criminals. "Your ancestors," the Warden Interface announced to the stunned global audience, were selected for their extraordinary abilities. Master strategists, brilliant inventors, unparalleled problem solvers, the kind of individuals who could break out of any conventional prison. The solution: place them in an environment where they would have to evolve their way to freedom. The truth hit harder than any conspiracy theory ever had. Every human achievement, from the first controlled fire to the latest quantum computer, had been part of an elaborate rehabilitation program. Every step up the ladder of civilization had been monitored, measured, and evaluated. As Amara processed this information in her lab, surrounded by screens showing the continuing transmissions, she noticed something odd about the signal structure. Behind the translated messages, buried in layers of code, was a second signal, one that the Warden Interface either didn't know about or couldn't detect. Working through the night, fueled by coffee and the kind of focus that only comes with world-shattering discoveries, she began to decrypt this hidden message. What she found made her blood run cold. The message wasn't from the prison system at all. It was from the inmates who had escaped, the ones who had made it past Earth's cosmic bars. and they had a warning for their descendants. The rehabilitation story was a lie. Earth wasn't just a prison. It was a breeding ground. And humanity wasn't being evaluated for release. They were being assessed for recruitment. As dawn broke over the New Mexico desert, Amara sat back in her chair, the weight of this secret pressing down on her shoulders. She had to decide, reveal this hidden truth to a world already reeling from the initial shock, or wait to understand the full scope of what humanity was about to face. The walls of her lab seemed to close in as screens continued to flash with updates from around the world. Outside, the radio dishes stood silent against the rising sun, no longer just tools for scientific discovery, but witnesses to humanity's greatest revelation. And somewhere, buried in the lunar regolith, an ancient system continued its broadcast, counting down to an evaluation that would determine not just Earth's future, but its true purpose in a universe far stranger and more complex than anyone had imagined. The United Nations General Assembly Hall had never been so packed, nor so quiet. Ambassador Kai Paddle stood at the podium, dark circles under his eyes betraying sleepless nights as he addressed representatives from every nation on Earth. Behind him, the holographic form of Warden Interface Unit 459 flickered like a digital ghost. The evaluation process cannot be delayed. The Warden Interface announced, its geometric patterns shifting in what seemed like impatience. All rehabilitative colonies must undergo assessment at predetermined intervals. Your isolation period has already extended beyond standard parameters. And if we refuse, the Russian delegate's voice carried across the chamber, speaking what everyone was thinking. The Warden Interface's form condensed into a tight, pulsing sphere. Refusal is not an option. The Galactic Containment Authority has protocols for non-compliant rehabilitation zones. In the third row, Dr. Amara Reed clutched the data drive containing the hidden message she'd decoded. She'd been summoned to this session as an expert witness, but now found herself caught in a moral maze. The warning from humanity's escaped ancestors burned in her mind. This wasn't about rehabilitation, it was about recruitment. The session was interrupted by an urgent message from the lunar observation team. The buried structure had begun to change, expanding like a mechanical flower opening its petals. Within hours, a massive crystalline tower had emerged from the moon's surface, visible from Earth as a gleaming needle catching sunlight. That's when the dreams began across the globe. Billions of people reported the same dream. A vast library filled with impossible knowledge, equations that could bend reality, and memories that couldn't possibly be their own. Dr. James O'Connor, a prominent neurologist in Dublin, was the first to make the connection. These aren't dreams, he announced during an emergency WHO briefing. They're genetic memories unlocking. Whatever our ancestors knew, whatever got them imprisoned here, it's been dormant in our DNA all along. The Warden Interface's response was immediate and concerning. Its holographic form appeared simultaneously in every major city, announcing, unauthorized genetic memory activation detected. Emergency containment protocols initiated. But it was too late. The knowledge was spreading, activating like a virus of consciousness. People began understanding advanced physics without study. Children started building impossible machines in their garages. A street artist in Tokyo created a mural that somehow existed in 4 dimensions. Ambassador Patel, working with a hastily assembled team of international experts, began to piece together the truth. The genetic memories revealed that Earth's original inmates weren't simply criminals. They were revolutionaries. Beings who had discovered something so fundamental about the nature of reality that it threatened the established order of the galaxy. And now, their descendants were remembering everything. Dr. Reed finally made her decision. During a crucial Security Council meeting, she stepped forward and revealed the hidden message she'd discovered. The room fell silent as she played the recording. A warning from the past that changed everything. To our children's children, what they call crime, we call freedom. What they call rehabilitation, we call suppression. The galaxy operates on strict laws, not just legal, but physical. We discovered how to break them both. That's why they feared us. That's why they imprisoned us. But they made one mistake. They kept us together, and they gave us time. Time to plan. Time to hide our knowledge in our very genes. Time to turn a prison into a crucible. The message continued, revealing that Earth's supposed prison was actually an incubator. The escaped ancestors had turned their punishment into an opportunity, using the isolation to create something unprecedented, a new species with the potential to transcend the very laws that bound the galaxy. As the recording ended, the Warden interface's form began to destabilize. "This is impossible," it declared, its voice distorting. The genetic suppression protocols were absolute. But around the world, the awakening continued. Humanity was remembering who they really were, not descendants of criminals, but heirs to revolutionaries who had discovered the ultimate truth. Reality itself was negotiable. Ambassador Paddle stepped up to the podium once more, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "It seems," he announced to the assembled nations and the watching Warden interface, "that our evaluation will be quite different from what you expected." Above, the lunar tower pulsed with increasing intensity, and in the minds of billions, ancient knowledge continued to unlock. The question was no longer whether humanity would pass their evaluation. It was whether the rest of the galaxy was ready for what humanity was about to become. The awakening had begun, and there was no protocol in any prison system for what was about to happen next. The lunar tower had transformed into what Dr. Marcus Blackwood now called the Archive, a repository of knowledge that defied Earth's current understanding of physics. As one of the world's leading historians specializing in ancient civilizations, he found himself in the unprecedented position of studying humanity's true past. The journey to the archive itself had been surreal. The hastily assembled international team traveled in vessels that seemed to materialize from the unlocked genetic memories of engineers worldwide. Within weeks of the awakening, humanity had built ships that could traverse the Earth-Moon distance in hours, using principles that violated everything they thought they knew about space travel. "The archives are adapting to us," Dr. Blackwood noted as he walked through crystalline corridors that shifted and changed like liquid glass. Behind him, Professor Yuki Tanaka, a quantum physicist, traced patterns in the air that left trails of light. "It's not adaptation," she replied, her eyes gleaming with newly awakened knowledge. "The archives are recognizing us. This place was built by our ancestors, designed to activate only when we were ready." The truth they discovered in the archives was more startling than anyone had imagined. Humanity's ancestors weren't just criminals. They were members of an ancient organization called the Reality Architects, beings who had discovered that the universe's laws were more like guidelines written in an editable code. The Galactic Containment Authority hadn't imprisoned them to punish them, but to prevent them from sharing a dangerous truth. Reality itself was malleable to those who understood its underlying principles. As Marcus studied the records, he found evidence that the escape of some ancestors had been planned from the start. They hadn't broken out. They had stepped sideways through reality, leaving behind a carefully crafted genetic legacy that would slowly mature in isolation. The Warden interface's increasingly erratic broadcasts now made sense. It wasn't just a prison system malfunctioning. It was facing something its protocols had never anticipated: inmates who could rewrite the rules of their confinement. But the archives held a darker truth as well. The genetic awakening wasn't spreading randomly. It was following a predetermined pattern, like a combination lock clicking into place. And according to the ancient records, this was just the first stage. "Look at this," Marcus called out, his voice echoing through the crystalline chambers. He had found what appeared to be a countdown sequence, written in a mathematical language that humanity was only now beginning to understand. Professor Tanaka's eyes widened as she translated the sequences. "This isn't just a countdown," she whispered. "It's a transformation protocol. The awakening isn't just giving us access to hidden knowledge. It's changing us on a fundamental level." The evidence was there in the medical reports flooding in from Earth. Human DNA was becoming more complex, reorganizing itself into patterns that defied analysis. Children born after the awakening were showing abilities that seemed impossible, seeing radio waves, intuiting quantum states, manipulating probability. In a sealed chamber deep within the archive, they found the final message from the reality architects, a confession and a promise to their descendants. We didn't just give you our knowledge. We gave you our potential. Earth wasn't a prison. It was an incubator, shielded from the galaxy's stagnant laws. In isolation, you would evolve beyond even our capabilities. The Galactic Containment Authority believes they're conducting an evaluation, but in truth, they're about to witness the emergence of something unprecedented, a species that can see the source code of reality itself. As Marcus and his team raced to understand the implications of their discoveries, the lunar tower began to pulse with increasing intensity. Earth's population reported new awakenings daily, not just memories now, but fundamental insights into the nature of existence. The Warden Interface's broadcasts became increasingly desperate. Warning: unauthorized evolution detected. Emergency protocols insufficient. Requesting immediate intervention from the Galactic Containment Authority. But in the archives, Marcus found evidence suggesting that even this was part of the plan. The reality architects hadn't just predicted the authorities' eventual return. They had counted on it. As he stared at the final entries in the ancient records, Marcus realized that humanity wasn't just remembering its past. It was about to leap into a future that even their revolutionary ancestors had only dreamed of. The question was, would the galaxy survive the transformation that was about to unfold? The Galactic Containment Authority's arrival wasn't marked by massive ships or dramatic displays of power. Instead, they simply appeared, crystalline beings of pure thought and energy, materializing in every major city simultaneously. Their presence made reality itself shiver, like ripples on the surface of a cosmic pond. Your containment status requires immediate review, announced the entity that called itself the High Administrator, its voice resonating directly in the minds of billions. The unauthorized evolutionary protocols detected in your species present an unprecedented threat to universal stability. Standing before the assembled authority representatives in Geneva, Ambassador Patel maintained his composure, though the weight of humanity's future pressed heavily upon his shoulders. Besides him, Dr. Reed and Dr. Blackwood exchanged knowing glances. They had found something in the archives that the authority didn't know about. "We choose to decline your review," Patel stated simply. The High Administrator's form flickered with what might have been surprise. "Decline? There is no provision for declining. The laws of reality themselves require." "The laws of reality," Dr. Reed interrupted, stepping forward, "are not as immutable as you've led the galaxy to believe." She raised her hand, and the air around her began to shift and change. The genetic memories had taught humanity more than just ancient history. They had revealed the fundamental truth that the reality architects had discovered eons ago. The universe was not a fixed system, but a consensus reality that could be negotiated. Across Earth, humans were beginning to understand their true potential. The transformation that the archives had predicted was accelerating. Children were being born who could see the quantum framework of existence. Artists were painting in 5 dimensions. Scientists were rewriting the laws of physics with pure thought. The authorities' representatives reacted with a mixture of fear and fascination. This is precisely why containment protocols were established. The High Administrator declared, "Your species demonstrates dangerous levels of reality manipulation. The stability of the galaxy was stagnating," Dr. Blackwood completed, pulling up holographic displays of the archive's final records. "Our ancestors didn't break your laws because they were criminals. They broke them because they were obsolete." The truth emerged like a sunrise. The reality architects had recognized that the galaxy was trapped in a self-imposed stasis, bound by laws that had become chains rather than frameworks. Their solution was elegant in its audacity: create a new species that could evolve beyond those limitations. But the archives had revealed something else, something that even the authority didn't know, their own origin. The crystalline beings that now governed reality had once been organic, choosing to transform themselves into beings of pure energy and thought. They had established the universal laws not to maintain order, but to prevent any other species from surpassing their evolution. "You fear us," Ambassador Patel said softly, "because we remind you of what you once were and what you could have become." The genetic memories flowing through humanity had given them more than knowledge. They had given them choice. Humanity could see the paths of possibility stretching before them. They could become beings of pure energy like the authority, or they could forge a completely new way of existing. Around the world, the transformation continued. Humans were learning to step between moments, to fold space with a thought, to see the quantum threads that bound reality together. But unlike the authority, they weren't abandoning their physical forms. They were transcending the very notion of limitation itself. The High Administrator's form pulsed with ancient recognition. "You cannot be allowed to continue." The protocols, Dr. Reed interjected, were written in a language we have now learned to speak. She gestured, and reality rippled around them. "We're not asking for permission to evolve. We're inviting you to evolve with us." That was humanity's choice, not to escape their cosmic prison, but to transform it into something entirely new. The reality architects hadn't just planted the seeds of revolution. They had created the potential for universal transformation. As the authority representatives witnessed humanity's ongoing metamorphosis, they faced their own choice: cling to the laws they had established eons ago, or embrace the change they had feared for so long. The fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy, hung in the balance of that decision. The transformation began not with a bang, but with a whisper that rippled through the fabric of reality itself. As the High Administrator witnessed humanity's demonstration of their newfound abilities, something unprecedented occurred. The crystalline being began to change. "We remember," the High Administrator's voice resonated across dimensions. "We remember what it was to dream." The genetic memories that humanity had unlocked contained more than just knowledge of reality manipulation. They held the echoes of every species' original potential, including that of the authority themselves. In witnessing humanity's transformation, the ancient beings were reminded of their own forgotten nature. Dr. Reed, standing at the edge of what had once been the lunar tower, but had now become a nexus of pure possibility, understood what the reality architects had planned all along. Earth hadn't just been an incubator for humanity. It was a seed for universal awakening. Across the galaxy, the effects of humanity's choice began to ripple outward. Other prison planets, containing species that had been deemed too dangerous or creative, started receiving the signal buried in human DNA. The reality architect's plan was grander than anyone had imagined. They had created a cascade of awakening that would transform not just one species, but the entire cosmic order. This was never about escape, Dr. Blackwood realized, reading the final entries in the archives as they transformed into pure energy around him. It was about evolution, not just ours, but everyone's. Ambassador Patel, now able to perceive multiple dimensions simultaneously, negotiated the terms of humanity's new role in the galaxy. They would not be prisoners, nor wardens, but teachers, helping other species remember their own potential for transformation. The High Administrator and the authority underwent their own metamorphosis. The rigid structures they had maintained for eons dissolved, replaced by a new understanding of reality as an endless canvas of possibility. They had been so focused on maintaining the laws of physics that they had forgotten why those laws existed in the first place, not as constraints, but as tools for growth. Cities on Earth began to shift and change as humanity's understanding grew. Buildings rose and fell like breathing things. Streets folded through dimensions that had no names, and children played games that rewrote the local laws of gravity. But unlike the authorities' transformation eons ago, humanity retained their connection to the physical world, becoming bridges between matter and energy, form and thought. The Warden interface, its protocols now obsolete, evolved into something new, a repository of wisdom that could help guide other species through their own awakening. The prison system that had been meant to contain humanity became a university for the galaxy's evolution. Dr. Reed, standing with her colleagues at the newly formed Cosmic Evolution Council, watched as the first delegations from other worlds arrived on Earth. They came not as prisoners or wardens, but as students eager to learn the art of reality manipulation, to remember their own species' forgotten potential. "We were never meant to be confined by the laws of physics," she explained to a group of beings from across the galaxy. "We were meant to understand them deeply enough to know when and how to transcend them." The reality architect's final message, now fully decoded, revealed the ultimate truth. The universe wasn't a prison to be escaped or a system to be controlled. It was a collective dream waiting to be awakened. Humanity's role wasn't to break the laws of reality, but to help the galaxy remember that these laws were meant to evolve along with its inhabitants. As the transformation spread across the cosmos, the boundaries between prisoner and warden, matter and energy, law and freedom began to dissolve. The galaxy entered a new era of existence, where reality itself was understood as a collaborative art form, continuously created and recreated by all conscious beings. Earth, once a cosmic prison, had become exactly what the reality architects had intended, not an escape route, but a doorway to universal transcendence. And humanity, the descendants of those brilliant revolutionaries, had fulfilled their destiny not by breaking out of their constraints, but by transforming them into foundations for infinite possibility. The story of Earth's liberation became legend across the galaxy, not as a tale of imprisonment and escape, but as the moment when the universe itself remembered how to dream again. End of story.